Well, hi everyone. This is Chuck Malone. Things are going a little crazy here tonight. We thought we would just deviate a little bit from real estate and have just a minute to talk about my new book, The Sweetness of Trial. I was hesitant to, get on Facebook and talk about it, but I've been encouraged by some friends lately that said, hey, you've got the passion for the book. You probably need to get online and talk about it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope that if you're watching this, I hope that you have a few minutes. We're going to talk about trial. And it's probably not the happiest subject out there to talk about, but there's a purpose for it. And as long as we can come to an understanding, I think, as to why we have this trial, why we have opposition, why bad things happen to good people. And then I think we stand to be able to get through that. My message to you tonight is that trial can certainly be overcome, but it can also help us win, help us become greater than we could ever become. So I just wanted to introduce the book to you. If you haven't already seen it, tonight's being hosted by my writing library at ijustwriteit.com. And if you went into that library, you would find really kind of the reason that I write. I started back in the 2008 scenario when real estate was not doing well. And so I looked for some other options to try to earn some income. And one of those was I pursued writing. Had no idea what I was doing, still don't. But in the process, I've written 3 or 4 books, and I hope that one day I'll get it right and that they could actually be of genuine help. I've received some marvelous testimony and testimonials from individuals that have read the book. Perhaps you've seen this cover out there. I have put it on Facebook. We've created a little video, a trailer to help promote it. I wrote the book, and it's very personal. And I wrote it really because I wanted our family to have the kind of my testimony about trial. Our life has not been one of those lives where you have the golden stick, in your mouth type of thing. I've made some decisions along the way that did not turn out well. And not necessarily because it was the wrong thing, but because we didn't have any control over it. And things happen to us when sometimes it's by our own choice, and sometimes it's no matter. Life's going to take its toll. So I wrote an article, and it really was just in the spirit of trying to entice a publisher to publish some work of mine. And he actually did publish it. I never got paid for it, but he did publish it. And it was wonderful. It was all about the Yuma lettuce days. I thought I was going to be a real copywriter. But our little photo and also the main article claimed first prize or first page. So it was kind of neat. I needed some other place to go, so I tried writing a little bit about our story during the 2008 to 2010 nightmare, and it was published, if you can believe. And I said, well, I'm going to write another one. And I wrote another one, and it was published. And so that's really what kind of got me started about along the road of writing. My main love is, of course, my wife and my children and grandchildren, but real estate has been my passion for over almost 45 years. But I think we all need something to give us a little bit of balance in life, and my hobby has been writing. Every morning when I go to the gym, I take my trusty iPad with me. Are you through with my iPad, young lady? And this has been my companion for many years, and I take, or one like it, and I'll take this iPad with me and get on the treadmill down there at the gym and just start those thumbs going. And I've written actually 4 books that way, and it doesn't take long. I mean, well, it takes long, but it doesn't take much time to pen some thoughts and put them together. So those of you that think, well, I've got a book in me and I really don't know what to do something. You know, this is like tonight. I'm very uncomfortable with this, as you can tell. I don't have an agenda. There's no script. It's just, it's a little herky-jerky flowing. But I felt like I needed to expose as many of you as I can to this book. I wrote it for my family. It was picked up by a publisher who got into my writing library. I used to give it, in fact, I still do give copies away. When I see anybody going through a trial, I love them to have a copy. I hope it will help. This last week, and my wife and I went to San Diego to a funeral of a dear friend of ours, and out of support for her husband. And, you know, thinking about it on the way, and it was an untimely passing, and you think, why, if there was a just God, and he'd really loved us as much as everyone says he does, then why would we be subjected to that type of trial? And how does that really make us better? And those are very legitimate questions. I think it's interesting. I've done so much study on this topic, and I'm also a Sunday school teacher, and we're in the Old Testament, which is fascinating by itself. And it just so happens the children of Israel are being led across 40 years of desert to prove themselves and to be proven and to be tested, and you know, they didn't fare well. And I think about those people and their very short-sightedness, and I think of us today, how quick it is often to blame God. And that's probably a no-no. I mean, if we're really trying to solicit some help, probably blaming the Creator who put us here, and for the reason he put us here, probably is not the best thing to do. But we do it, and we do it out of emotion, and then we're sorry about it, and then of course he forgives us. But we haven't grown through that. And so I wrote this book with the perspective to help us win through trial. And win, in my definition, is not, you know, crossing the finish line, but win is to become all that we can become. And not just to endure it, not just put up with it, not just say, well, isn't he brave, but to add a perspective to us as to what can I help others become? Can I become all that I was destined to be? And so some of we printed a few of the testimonials in the book, and I really tell you that I love these folks that gave some input. It really means the world to me. It's a reason that I agreed to have it published in the first place. I just had it printed and gave it away. I need to tell you a little bit about the front page. How did that come to be? It took our publisher to realize that needed to be like that. That was not my idea, but that is my grandson. And he is Mighty Jake Priestley. Mighty Jake, The Adventures of Mighty Jake on Facebook, if you want to go to that. This is a young man that really has had trial all his life, and never has really known a normal life. And that's been his legacy, and will be his legacy, and that of his parents. And so we don't always, in fact, we rarely get to choose what happens to us. but we can choose how we react. And this young man has earned my love and respect for the way he reacts. He's known all over the world, really. He's got a smile that just does not leave. And so Jake has gone through many years of pain and discomfort and diagnosis and shame. I mean, goodness sakes, this poor young man had just been put through one doctor after another trying to evaluate him, and I don't know how you get through that and grow up with people telling you, well, there's nothing wrong with you, or take him home, and there's nothing more we can do for him. And I mean, Jake has gone through a life of that, and now he's 16, going to be 16 years of age this August. And so 3 years ago, they sent him home to die. Now, that's a trial. And yet Jake had other plans. Yes, he lost weight and got down to 75 pounds, but he's taller than I am now. And so we love this young man. He was part of the motivation for writing this book. And so we have Jake there at the feet of the Savior, and the Savior's arms open as it's open to each of us. And they're all we have to do. We can't be like the children of Israel. We can't murmur. We can't expect to receive the Lord's help if we're going to have a bad attitude over it. If we're going to murmur, if we're going to be angry, if we're going to be spiteful about our trial, then it's going to be a long road for us. So some of the things that were said, one of Sue Ann said, the sweetness of trial is a powerful reminder as to how the Lord allows us to learn through our suffering. It also gives power to the thought that in our darkest hours, we are carried beyond one's strength. I love the author's ability to teach me once again that I am never alone, and I bear testimony of the fact that the things that I have suffered and continue to suffer are not in vain. I love that. Thank you, Sue Ann. Another one, another reader, I said, as I read through the first part of the book, I was touched deeply. It was obvious that Chuck and his wife had experienced great trials. They had experienced their own refiner's fire. And it just so happened at this time, I and my wife were going through the trial of our son. And his son was killed. We were searching for understanding and to know what we needed to learn from this, if anything. And even though our trial was different than that what Chuck drew upon in his book, his perspective and what he had to say about trial was very helpful to me. And I found myself drawing strength from his experiences. I found comfort and expanded vision as I read the book. Well, there have been many other write-in testimonials. And I think, again, is there really anything that I can offer? Let me read you some of the chapters. And again, I remember when I first started to write this book, and I had all these reference books piled up on my desk. And I just started writing. And it was an amazing experience to me. I don't believe I ever opened one of those books. And it was, I felt like the Lord had his hand on mine. The very first, the preface, in fact, is entitled Trial is Non-Denominational. Now, I guess I wanted to put that out front, that it's not an attempt to convert you to my way of thinking. I don't expect that. I didn't expect my own family to believe the way I did. I chose to go a different route. But trial is non-denominational. The rain falls upon us all. It doesn't matter who we are. And so a little bit about in the preface. Trial is non-denominational. It spares no religion, race, or gender. While my views of trial are maybe different, the subject matter in the book applies to all residents of planet Earth. I like to say truth is truth. It really doesn't matter what your belief is. If it's true, it's true. And in Matthew it says, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun, S-U-N, to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. So rain falls upon all men and women alike in the form of trial and blessings. My purpose in writing this book is to share my personal testimony of trial and its place among the many aids our loving Heavenly Father has provided as part of his plan of happiness, with the goal of nurturing and having attained eternal life and exaltation. Perhaps also the testimonies and experiences reflected within these pages may in some small way serve to radiate hope and make a difference in your life. And then the last paragraph of this, so tomorrow when the sun rises and blankets the earth with rays of warmth and light and fills even its darkest corners, it is my prayer that you will embrace those heaven-sent rays in the form of renewed hope, that your current trial will soon pass, and once again the sun will shine within your heart, having survived another trial of your faith. My wife and I were aroused one night, I don't know, it was about 11 o'clock, and I remembered it as a text. Linda said it was a phone call, but it woke us both. And it was one of those calls you never want to get. And it was a call from a daughter who, she and her family were in law school, and told us about that she had discovered that she had cancer. And that word alone just absolutely changes your life. And those of you that have had any part of it know that how difficult that is. And so when that event happened, and we had just seen a marvelous blessing, we had just purchased a large home, and just the two of us, we had no idea why. And when this phone call came, it became very apparent that this was the Lord's tender mercy. We brought that whole family in with us, and for 2.5 years, we battled that monster. We battled it. And there were some amazing heaven-sent blessings that are chronicled not only in this book, but also in the next book, its sequel that's just about finished. But that really got and at that time, we were right in the throes. I just finished a big project. I had deviated from residential real estate for a while to help a client, and so my commitment to them was just about over. And when it ended, I looked around. Well, there was no work. There was nothing, and it was 2 years of really no major income, and these very difficult times. Those of you that were in the 2008 to 10, you know how difficult those times were. And right at that time, then we had our grandson was struggling, and then we had our daughter, and this was very high, stage 3.5, 4, I can't remember, but it was a very fast advancing, and we had to do some quick work, and the Lord was right with us. And we went right on our knees. I just remember that night of just, first was anger. Why us? And then to our credit, we knelt together, and and opened up the heavens and said, all right, we can't do this alone. And please help us. And our attitudes changed, and I think I learned something from that we have a great ally in the Heavenly Father that brought us here. And so that experience of going through that and becoming very humble and knowing that we could not do this by ourselves, and learning from it and growing from it, is really why I have this book, why I have these books. Wrote another one, Malone P.I. I think this is kind of a fun book, especially when I had absolutely no idea where it was going. I just sat down and said, well, I need to try my hand at fiction. Wonder what I ought to call it. Well, why don't I call it Malone P.I.? Everybody likes a good mystery. What's the mystery going to be? The mystery is going to be, how am I going to ever finish this book? How am I going to make it end? That's the mystery. I had no idea where it was going. Well, I said, once upon a time kind of a thing. And it started in downtown Phoenix. I just envisioned my little first-time real estate office and kind of wrote from that. And it took legs. It was amazing. And I jumped into those characters and really had a lot of fun doing this. And I remember when I was at home and I think finishing up, and I yelled, Linda, yay! I can't believe I actually circled it. I actually closed, and I think it makes sense. And that was my very first little story. And so that's being edited, and hopefully that'll be published soon. And then I got into this one. This one, I'm actually quite proud of this, An Imperfect Life. This one, and I have the subtitle, Hills Are for Climbing. And they are. And so just a little bit about An Imperfect Life on the backside of this. Life is hard in this remote Guatemalan town where the only work available to parents of 9-year-old Maria Luis is in the local textile market or factory, demanding, I'm going to get my glasses on here, 12-hour work days of both parents, leaving little time to raising their daughter. Maria grows weary of being on the receiving end of life's disappointments, and at age 14 becomes pregnant. Her mother discovers her condition only a few weeks of full term, drags her daughter to the local abortion clinic with intent to rid Maria of this major hardship on the family. The trauma causes Maria to give birth, but she is lied to by the doctor and her mother and is told that the baby had died. Maria learns from a compassionate nurse that her baby was a boy, but is not told that the boy was sent to a Catholic convent many miles away to be raised and educated until the boy could be adopted by anxious parents willing to pay a fee. Young Paulo is born with a few defects, but his most serious issue, his anger toward life in general and to the parents who conceived but deserted him. Because of his anger issues, Paulo is unable to draw any prospective parents until Annette Tone and her husband Richard come to the orphanage. Annette feels an immediate connection with Paulo, and before the Tones can bring Paulo to their native state of Utah, Paulo is kidnapped, which puts in play unbelievable events that ultimately combine to develop a boy into a man. Isn't that neat? And it was so fun to write. I loved it. I can't wait to start. Well, I'm actually starting on another. Again, this when I get one that gets a little, you kind of slow down one, I'll pick up another one. I mean, I've got 4 or 5 of these going all at the same time. And my daughter-in-law up in Idaho said, you need to write some stories about you when you were young. And so, I did. And I've got that started. That'll come out, and I'm really looking forward to that. And the kids, the grandkids, just love this one. That'll be called That's Charlie, and it'll be funny. I mean, there's it was fun. So anyway, I'm rambling on here. I just wanted you to, those of you that ever considered writing, write one. Let yourself get immersed in it. It is so fun. So the sweetness of trial is, again, non-denominational. Some of the other chapters, I've got one, reflections. You know, it's mostly, again, I wrote this for my family. So it does tell you about my experience with One Eye, the horse. And I wanted to be a cowboy, and how I lost my brother-in-law's spur, and how my very first spiritual experience, where the Lord, opened the heavens and showed me where this lost spur was. It was a marvelous, for a 10-year-old boy, it was quite earth-shattering for me. So I talk about reflections, and then I felt like it's important to cover some basic truths. Again, truth is truth, and so understanding the purpose of why we're here, and what are we to learn here. Again, get in the Old Testament. Why did the Lord take the people, the Israelites, across the Red Sea and into the wilderness, and supposedly in the Promised Land? But before then, he had to prove them. He had to get them ready, because they were to be the covenant people. And so it's important to understand, I think, some basic truths. A trial, a necessary part of God's plan. Enduring trial, waiting upon the Lord. You know, we're not real patient in our trial. It's like patience. I just want it now. I'm happy to learn. Then why bad things happen to good people. This too shall pass. And then winning through trial. Now, winning through trial is the next book. And that's the one that I am so excited. The sweetness of trial will help you identify, I believe, the atonement in your life. I guess coming to the realization that you cannot do this on your own. And so with humility, with a broken heart, with a contrite spirit, with meekness. It's maybe kind of a weak word, some might say, but Jesus considered himself meek, and I think that's a great term, because it is one who I think is not aggressive, but understanding, and solid. And so the winning through trial, and so in the sweetness, that sweetness that I felt, and I felt it was a blanket of not of depression, almost like a runner's high. It was a sweetness, that's the only way I could describe it. It was a sweetness that, as I prayed in my darkest hour, that sweetness came upon me. And the only experience I could relate it to was like a runner's high. You get into that mode of running, and you just get into a euphoric condition. It was marvelous. And I believe that's when we truly accept the Savior's atonement. So I've chosen to conclude this book by introducing just a taste of its sequel, Winning Through Trial. Although not completed, the Lord has already placed within my heart words that are anxious to jump from my old iPad into the willing hearts of my readers. When trial comes, as it surely will, there will be a choice made in the beginning that will define the course in which we will take. Will we become bitter, or will we become better? There is an account contained in the Holy Scriptures of a man God loved and trusted so much that he allowed Satan, the master deceiver, to test the man's integrity through incomprehensible trial. Can you guess the name of the man? You're right, Job. I could choose no better conclusion for this book or better example to set as a standard for the next than to teach a principle of winning through trial, as reflected in the book of Job, found in the New Testament. We learned in the sweetness of trial that trial is non-denominational. It strikes both the righteous and the unrighteous of God's children. Yet here was Job, a man who stood blameless. He was meek before God, about to be stripped of all earthly wealth, family, and possessions because he was so upright and good and meek. When God gets you or pits you against the wills of Satan or the wiles of Satan, you have to know God believes in you. It was like in the scriptures it says, God chastens those he loves. And I used to think that I wish my mother didn't love me as much as she did. She followed that same. Anyway, but that's what he did with each of us by allowing Satan to try and tempt mankind. The agency we have today, Satan wanted to take that away. God has such faith in his children that he removed the chains binding the son of morning and put all his faith forward into the likes of you and me. And so in the new book, and I call the new book Winning Through Trial. In the new book, I have winning ways that I've learned over the years, that these winning ways on how to prepare ourselves for trial, how to prepare our minds, how to prepare our attitudes, how to get ourselves in condition, as Rocky did. And I use some of those examples. So winning ways, winning way number one, I hope you would expect it, is call upon God. When trial strikes, I hope that your very first thought is to be on your knees asking the Lord these questions. And here's part of this preparation. What am I to learn from this? I put myself in the mindset of my friend in San Diego. What am I to learn from this? One of the winning ways is opportunity. Look for it. Is this an opportunity? I just lost my mate of many, many years. How is that an opportunity? My friend whose son was killed. How is that? Where do I find opportunity in that, Chuck? Well, it starts, number one, with getting the right attitude about trial. If we let ourselves react to the natural man within us, the natural man in us will cause us to be bitter. That's the natural instinct when we are confronted with opposition. But if we can prepare ourselves, if we can condition ourselves, get our mind thinking in terms of, okay, number one, pray. Number two, what do I need to learn from this? Number three, where is the opportunity? Who can I bless? I'm not saying this is easy, but I am saying that the alternative, do you really want to lose everything as Job did? Do you want that? Well, that's what we're faced with sometimes when that trial is so traumatic. We could lose everything. And so I've written these two books as a help, condition, as a way to help you see that that is not what God intended. God did not intend us to be stricken by trial and stay down. God intended the children of Israel to learn. He instructed them. He was prepared to instruct them. That was their opportunity, and they missed it. Sometimes the opportunity in trial comes in the change of our nature. If we continue in the direction we're going, where will we end up unless there's some course correction? I won't even give you examples. I know that if you're listening to this and I have your heart just a little bit, you'll understand what I'm saying. It will take a trial to keep you on the covenant path. And so I just don't think we can look at trial as our enemy. I think if we can look at it in different terms, perspective, to help you win, not just endure, not just tolerate, but to win. I would never be, not that I'm any great writer, but it's fulfilled something inside me and fulfilling something inside me that I never would have even pursued had it not been for trial. And so I hope that with this little, I probably spent enough time tonight taking your time. I hope that this has been helpful in some little way, that you might come back and join me again. I think I would love to do this again if the comments that come in are good enough. I mean, if you would like it, I would love to, every couple of weeks, I would love to go live and talk about the book, and talk about the new book, and invite you into my writing library. Go into ijustwriteit.com. You can go into Facebook and I have a Facebook page, ijustwriteit.com. That's who's hosting this tonight. And you can go into that, and I've got all kinds of writings and published articles and things that you might enjoy reading, and feel free to teach. I mean, truth is truth. So anyway, I'll bid adieu here and give you a good night. But again, thank you so much. For those of you that would like to purchase the book, it is on Amazon, and I think in the Facebook post that I made today, I put a link that you can go to and order it. You can get it downloaded onto your Kindle for $5. I mean, it's really there's not money in it. It's just that if there's good words in here that will help you kind of begin. I look at it as the foundation. This is the one I hope you're excited about. I hope this is the one that really gets you thinking, because this one will challenge you. This one will prepare you. These winning ways will prepare you. I've tested them. I can tell you they will prepare you. And so I'm really excited about that one. I'm on the last chapter right now. I may add some in between, but I'm on the last chapter of this. And guess what the chapter is? Be mighty. The last chapter is dedicated to mighty Jake, to tell his story. And his story's still right. I mean, he's in the Lord's hands. Jake may be with us longer than I am, and I hope that he is. But he's the be mighty guy. He's the inspiration in my life. And so I'm dedicating that last chapter to all of us who can be mighty in our trial and in our opposition. That's what the Lord would want. Be mighty. Have a good night. Thank you so much.